Hey there everyone, that sexy nerd is back again. And Napoleon's back in Egypt. Yeah, so apparently Napoleon thought it was a good idea to go to Africa without knowing that there were crocodiles in the water. You know, and that's how it is. People like him, like Napoleon, as much credit as he gets, was very arrogant. Very freaking arrogant, and it contributed to his downfall. It's the reason why the British were able to beat the crap out of him, even though he kinda also, I could see where the arrogance came from, because literally uses the after getting defeated, getting kicked out of France, and put on the island of Elba, or not Elba, whatever island he was on, the first island he was banished to, he escaped, went back to France, and everybody was just like, Viva France! And I'm like, wow. Ugh. I guess you can't really blame him for his narcissism, but hey, let's see what gets him into trouble this time, because this Egypt trip is so not going well. What the hell is next? So, please, smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content, and subscribe if you think I deserve it. And let's do this thing. Oh.
French ship Toulon, Aboukir Bay, August 1st, 1798. Away from the flames! Come about! Yells Captain Dupatit-Thouars. The British
alive?
under Admiral Nelson had hit them just before dusk, initiating a bloody night battle and somehow getting behind the French defensive line. Dupatit-Thouars had pulled out of line to engage the British ship Majestic, pounding it to splinters, but at great cost, as return fire severed both of his arms and one of his legs. Now, he sits upright in a bucket filled with grain, directing his crew with bloody stumps. Get distance! Away! Away! Their flagship, the Orient, is afire, and Toulon is too close. If the flames were to reach the magazine, it could... A white flame fills the sky. The crew turns stunned. The Orient is gone. Dupatit-Thouars tells them to shake it off and continue the fight. In fact, his last order is to nail the colors to the mast, signaling there'll be no surrender. 2 days later, when the surviving crew finally give up, the French fleet has been destroyed. Napoleon may rule Egypt, true, but it is Nelson who rules the waves.
So why? What is this, the end? I know this is how it ends.
After the Battle of the Pyramids on July 21st, 1798, Napoleon marched on Cairo, becoming master of Egypt. Then, as he had done in other places, like Malta and Alexandria, he immediately went about reforming the city on the new French model. He set up local directories, councils basically, in towns and villages. He set up courts that made declarations granting more rights and freedoms to women. He enlisted Egyptian Copts, a local sect of Christianity, to fulfill their already prominent role as administrators and financial workers. And finally, most importantly, he had the army gather together representatives of a very specific trade: bakers, who were immediately given a crash course on how to make a decent baguette, because you have to focus on the hierarchy of needs. Am I right? I mean, what, am I going to eat my jambon bar on, like, wheat bread? Come on. Next, Napoleon's...
I am French.
Sent word to Al-Azhar Mosque, summoning the highest-ranking clerics to his presence. When they came before him, he saw that they were all pale. Some even shook. They feared they would be killed. No! Napoleon burst out laughing. He told them to relax. He wasn't there to take their heads. He was there to make them the heads. He wanted a council to advise him in leading Egypt, and he wanted them to do it. This actually appealed to them, and was quite the savvy move by Bonaparte. See, the Ottomans, very specifically, avoided entrusting political power to the Egyptians, and especially to local religious figures. And the whole reason they'd picked the Mamelukes as their ruling caste, slave soldiers brought in from the Caucasus with no local ties, was that they thought a foreign elite would be more loyal, and in the Ottoman Empire, civil figures ruled over religious ones. Further, the Ottomans had always insisted that their own clerics serve as final authority in interpreting religious law, so this was an opportunity for the scholars of Cairo to steer religion in Egypt. So Napoleon's tease of giving the clerics both civil power and religious autonomy was so tempting that they decided to see how it played out. Napoleon, for his part, saw an alliance with Egyptian religious authorities as...
Look at the look on his face there. He's like, I will kill them all.
a way of keeping control of the country. This was 100% a cynical move, mind you, considering that the French Revolution itself had frequently cited organized religion as corrupt and immoral and insisted its institutions be secular. Officially, you could practice any religion you wanted in private, but it was supposed to be kept out of the government and the public sphere. Unofficially, though, religion was often looked down upon, and the Revolutionary Army was famous for sacking and despoiling heavily Catholic regions, even within France. However, Napoleon was pragmatic. While he personally looked down on religion, he also considered it an excellent tool to manipulate people. And that was exactly what he tried to do, releasing numerous statements about his great respect for Islam and its compatibility with French ideals. And he needed that support, because, oh boy, was he in trouble. Napoleon was chasing the forces of Ibrahim Bey towards Syria when he got the news that his fleet had been destroyed, and he was effectively trapped in Egypt. The one small mercy here was that the French fleet had at least damaged Nelson's ships badly enough that he couldn't stay in the area, going back to a friendly port to refit and drop off the multiple ships he'd captured. Though back in the negative column, the destruction of the Orient had sent the treasure of Malta, which was supposed to fund this whole Egyptian expedition, to the bottom of the bay. And to add insult to injury, the British also captured a cache of mail headed back to France, which included several letters of French officers and savants talking about how miserable they all were, and a letter from Napoleon himself to his wife Josephine, where he lividly cursed her out for carrying on an affair while he was gone. Oh, yeah, the British published all of those. Like, cold-bloodedly showed all the receipts. With this...
Ooh, that's revenge for the 100 Years' War. Oh, he's still become, like, that would have ended your career these times. Like, how did he not still become dictator? And they published all of that, but, they're like, fake news, right?
Defeated sea, Bonaparte now found his supply lines, communications channels, and evacuation routes to France had all essentially been cut. And he hadn't even fully defeated the Beys. Ibrahim was waiting in Syria with his army, and Murad had started a guerrilla insurgency in Upper Egypt. Modern French tactics were far less effective in this fast-moving type of war, and commanders quickly found that in a battle of cavalry versus cavalry, the Mamluk horsemen were more than a match for them. But also, Murad and Ibrahim were playing the long game. See, years before, the pair, who'd governed Egypt on behalf of the Ottomans but were semi-autonomous, had actually revolted against Ottoman rule and been exiled after an invasion. Really? But back then, they'd simply waited until the Ottomans had a different insurgency on their hands and then struck a deal with them to return to power. They figured all they had to do here was kind of the same thing. Wait for Napoleon to fail and then come roaring back. So Napoleon doubled down on trying to make Egypt into a secure long-term position. He tried to become an Ottoman-style ruler in a way that would appeal to Egyptians, leading the festivities at the annual Festival of the Nile and the Prophet Muhammad's birthday. He even sponsored a dinner symposium among Cairo's religious scholars, where he appeared in a turban and a robe, declaring himself the champion of the Prophet, and claiming he wanted to unite all wise people under one regime founded on the principles of the Quran.
Oh, did they punch him?
Yeah. And one scholar told him the best way to get Egyptians to accept his rule would actually be for him and his army to convert. Napoleon did briefly consider whether he'd take that step. Eventually, though, he turned it down. Tactfully, of course, saying that his soldiers would not accept it. They liked their wine, after all, and, probably wouldn't agree to mass circumcision. And I think at this point, it's important to be very clear. This entire thing was a political dance. Napoleon faked an interest in Islam, and the scholars pretended to believe him. But meanwhile, he tightened his grip. At first, he'd promised to do away with the Mamluk high taxes, but now he implemented them for his own benefit. He extracted tithes and fines from the wives of Mamluk officials that returned to Cairo and investigated taxing pilgrim caravans. He also ruled with fear. In one letter, he casually mentioned that he was beheading 5 to 6 people a day in Cairo. And Cairo citizens felt general discomfort living under Christian rulers. They complained to each other that the French were dirty, tyrannical, that they favored Christians over Muslims, and that they sexually assaulted women, raiding harems to kidnap slave girls as their concubines. Really? And though they claimed to be anti-slavery, officers were still buying men and women at slave markets. Then, low-level resistances plagued.
He, just like I said in the first video, like his love for the Roman Empire, he reinstituted slavery in France when he did eventually take full power.
The French in Cairo. Bedouins kidnapped and killed soldiers. Upper-class citizens avoided Napoleon's public appearances. The French quickly learned not to walk off alone, and the revolts in Lower Egypt kept the army tied down. Heck, even the French-trained bakers weren't safe. Mobs actually chased them off and smashed their ovens. Then, on October 21st, rallied by a manifesto calling for all French to be killed, Cairo rose up. Mobs filled the streets, setting up barricades and attacking soldiers. The revolt centered around Al-Azhar Mosque, where setting up barricades and attacking soldiers. The revolt centered around Al-Azhar Mosque, where thousands of students joined the combat, and peasants, used to being mobilized by Ottoman armies, took up weapons as well. The French then stationed cannons atop the city's highest tower and bombarded the rebel-held districts. Later that night, Napoleon pushed out into the city, French soldiers fighting house to house and destroying barricades. And by the next morning, he had the whole city apart from Al-Azhar Mosque itself. The people inside called for God to help them, with Napoleon supposedly responding, "He is too late." French cannons smashed the walls, opening gaps. Then French troops stormed in. According to his memoir, General Alexandre Dumas led that assault. However, in later paintings, the general, then out of favor, was replaced by Napoleon himself. When the smoke cleared, 6,000 citizens of Cairo lay dead or wounded, and one thought plagued Napoleon's mind. I have got to get out of here.
Pretty damn good. I loved it. Not a lot happened here, but yeah, man. I thought we were going to get to the crazy part near the end. I didn't know we were going to have him come out in the turban and oh god. He just didn't know what the fuck he was doing the whole time, didn't he? With this great military leader. Yes, he might have led a freaking army, army and whatever, but when he's up against a foreign power that really doesn't want him around, they will get him out. But yeah, just like, the Peninsular War and everything, But anyway, yeah, I can't wait to see the next few episodes. I don't know. It's like, is this going to last 4 or 5 episodes? Who knows? This is actually kind of exciting. But, yeah, please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content. And subscribe if you think I deserve it. And also, special announcement, we're going to be having Hard Target come out tonight. So, watch out for that video as well. So, I'll see you on the next video.